Hi, I'm Kimberly Lane.
I'm Sonia Jante.
And I'm Jonathan Ward. And together we're Unlocking Leadership. We're three experienced executive coaches with very different perspectives. In every episode, we take a question from a real client and provide key insights to address their challenge from our three different perspectives. It's a holistic approach to understand challenges and opportunities. So let's get to it. Our question today is from Russ in Grand Junction. And he asks, do you have any tips for building efficient and effective social networks for growing my influence that do not involve a social media platform? Kimberly, I think this sounds like a great question. I think you cover this in your book, don't you?
I sure do, Jonathan. Thank you. And Russ, what a great question, and very applicable now that we are being able to have the ability to meet with people in person and not just be conducting most of our interactions and connections over a virtual platform, right? Or in social media for that instance. So my book is actually called Connections Change Everything. And it's really about the fact that emotional connection is really what we thrive on. And it's really, if you're in sales, it's what clients really buy on. They don't really buy on logic, they buy on emotion, and then they use the logic to defend their desire to purchase a product or service, if you will. But just in general, we need emotional connection, and that is really what we thrive on. And it's very difficult to get that emotional energy connection over a social media platform or especially even as a networking platform, if you will. So I applaud you for looking for a different strategy. So a couple ideas, and I'm sure Jonathan and Sonia have some as well, and I can add to that too. But just think about, are there business platforms that you can get involved in that are either industries you want to get into or within your industry? There's a lot of just different business events that can occur, or business opportunities. You've got, I think now they're starting up with conventions with regards to specific industries that are going on, and whether they be Vegas or New York or Boston, et cetera. So again, that gives you that one-on-one conversation or meeting that will establish an emotional connection. And from there, you can meet people in that setting and then continue that relationship, which I think is really important, over a virtual platform if need be, if you can't be there in person. So also I would add, are there any training or certifications that you can get involved in that you would find like-minded people as well, peers, peer groups, and things of that sort? So I will pause and let Jonathan and Sonia give their input.
Jonathan, you go ahead.
Well, to build on your suggestion, Kimberly, about training organizations, I mean, that's one of the things that I find in doing some work with a local leadership development organization is when we were having the classes here in person, that the clients that I work with, the managers, they're both mid-level and senior level managers, say that perhaps even more valuable than what they learn textually or subject matter wise in the class is the ability to network with other people who are facing similar challenges from across the country. So if you can find a way to get involved in an open enrollment class, this is one that's not just people in your organization, but people from organizations around the country or around the world, or even just around your state. I think it's a great way for you to meet other people who are in a similar type of point in their career in terms of the management and leadership challenges they're facing. And you find out a little bit about how other people are dealing with things in other organizations. And you also find out that it gives you an opportunity to meet people who can perhaps refer you to somebody else if you are eventually looking to move on to somewhere else. That everybody probably knows someone. And there's the great question: if you talk to somebody about doing like an informational interview, just tell me what's it like doing your job, and then ask them at the end of that, are there three people that I can talk to that what might be good for me to get to know, and get them to refer you to three different people to have a conversation with. And so I think having those conversations is a really great way to expand your network and to learn. Sonia?
One of the things that, so when I first started my career in business, I was in sales and business development, and I was selling into manufacturing environments. And I was not a manufacturing person. So I had to go join. My boss said, this is important for you. I ended up going into an organization that primarily was all different people from the manufacturing industry. And through that, I found out that there was a couple of courses that I could be certified in so that I would actually understand the language and all of that. And what I found was interesting was because of the nature of that specific group and the way, if you will, I launched myself in the networking of it, that the question most people ask each other after they met the person and understood what it was is like, how can I help you? And so it became like my natural mantra is, people will, because there's something, I agree with Kimberly, that when you're there in person and the individual starts talking about something, you can tell by the way that their body language is, whether that's a positive experience or a difficult experience. And if you're able to probe a little bit and they're able to share what their issue is, it might spark some ideas in your mind about how you could help, or somebody that potentially could help. And in that moment, they actually then shift their focus on, gee, what is it that I'm dealing here with you? And that you're potentially an asset. You're potentially somebody that they can count on to move forward in some direction. And I'm very grateful that we are being able to go back to group activities in person if possible. One of the things that I think is interesting that really flourished during the last couple of years is there is more organizations that have been built around specific areas, whether it's a specific function, a specific area, whether it's ESG or whatever it is. So there is a plethora of places that you can go. And one of the things I think is interesting, depending on whatever your growth goals are, is put yourself in environments that you normally are not in, because you'll see yourself showing up differently. You realize, oh, I'm very interesting here because nobody else looks like me or thinks like me. Or, gee, I'm learning everything because this is completely a very different world.
Yeah. I like the fact that you brought up, Sonia, that your intent has to come from an unselfish place, if you will, when you're first meeting people and the how can I help you? And I think that really comes into play in cultivating these relationships. You might meet them in a personal setting, and then maybe from a distance perspective, I think you should have regular conversations with that individual or these individuals that you meet, whether it's a Zoom or a phone call, to stay in touch and to have conversations about how can I help you and to deepen the relationship. And then as you have challenges that come upon your life and your career or anything, by asking these resources who have now started to get to really know you and built a really great relationship, they are able to give you guidance and support and introduce you to other people that can help you. So if I really look at my past and how things have evolved in my life, it has been through the people I know who recommended somebody else. It's that trust factor. By knowing somebody and being comfortable with an individual, you're much more likely to trust the person that they're recommending, right? So really cultivating those relationships and really honoring them in the essence that you also are contributing and asking, how can I help? And it's not just about what you need from somebody. So I'd really, really emphasize that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for some reason a long time ago, and maybe this is hopefully this has changed in the recent years, but there used to be this stigma associated with, well, you got this job because you knew somebody, and I don't think that's not it. I think it's
right.
You get to meet somebody, and they get to feel comfortable with you. You have a conversation and things like that, or you wouldn't even know who the right person is to go to talk to in an organization to find out. If you're just submitting blind resumes to an organization, for example, if you're trying to apply, you probably have no chance of getting in unless you've got some sort of spectacular thing on there. But if you've had a conversation with somebody and you understand what the challenges of that organization are, and what are the key things that are keeping the leaders up at night, and you can address those kind of things in your resume or your interview, that's going to make you much more valuable to them. And you also find out before you even apply whether it's a place you would want to work. Some of these places, they might look great on paper, but as soon as you find out what the toxic culture is like, you learn to stay as far away from them as you possibly can. But you can't learn that without actually talking to people who are working there.
Right. I agree with Kimberly and Jonathan on a couple of things. Kimberly, you brought up the having some kind of a consistent contact with somebody in the developing of the relationship. And when I look back and when I started my business as a coach, there were several people that I met once a quarter, and literally they got to set the agenda. And I was just there to see, you know, what I could learn or who I could refer them to or whatever. As a result of that, actually, that's how Jonathan and I met. The gentleman that I was doing this was the Ed Wright Management, and he was running the coaching practice. And, you know, at first he had said, you know, you seem very charming, very nice, but, you know, we don't have really anything for you. And I was like, well, fine. So we just kept getting in touch. And one day I'm in the elevator coming down from seeing a client in the very same building. He walks into the elevator and he goes, oh, I need your resume and bio now. And I was like right now? And but he would have never known who I was. He would have never understood why it was relevant. It's just that circumstances changed for him, and suddenly I came into focus. And so I think that makes a difference. I think something else that Jonathan talked about, that, you know, having somebody, you know, in a sense, sponsor you by sending the resume through them, or have them be able to weigh in on, you know, why they think you're a qualified candidate. I know that it sounds very, very old fashioned, but I think every once in a while, if you're able to, if you actually have the address of the person or a way to get the information there, sending a handwritten note, like when somebody's taken you out to lunch or you've been with them in some way, thanking them for their time in some kind of a physical, tangible way. It's something that they'll keep, because there's so many different kind of cards that you can have that I actually keep them on my refrigerator. It says like, you're amazing or whatever. And so people like, hey, you know, they will connect that with you. It's all about how you're building your brand in that regard.
Thank you for reminding me to order some of
Yeah.
those.
What's
Yeah.
it?
I said, thanks for reminding me that I need to order some thank you cards. I just realized I'm going to need a supply of them in about 3 weeks.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry to interrupt, Kimberly.
No, yeah, it's all, no, it's great. Yeah. So it's really about too, and your networking, you know, what differentiates you as an individual, right? And how can you, going back to what Sonia said, how can you help that person you've met and have and build just a really wonderful relationship professionally, you know, and or whatever, friendship, right? So there's a lot that goes into that. Anything else we want to add?
not for me.
Jonathan?
We have to meet at a bar somewhere and have some conversation. That's another great way of with some of these classes. They said they learn more at the bar talking to folks after the class was over.
Gosh, yes.
Kimberly has tons of stories about that.
I know I have. I mean, you know, if I could get a client out to dinner, I had them. I just did, because I never talked about business. I just got to know them, what were their interests, just let them talk. And we just built a friendship. And every person that ever became a client, they became friends too. Like I just always kept the relationship going just because I liked them as people, right? And it was almost like I would prefer to only do business with people I like. And that's usually the way it works, right? People really want to do business with people they like, right? Otherwise, you know, it takes some of the fun out, right? So, but it just really, you know, that's how I got the title of the book, Connections Change Everything. It's really the relationships you build with people not only can change your life from a business perspective, but if you're building a connection based on emotional connection with people and really building a relationship or a friendship, they do change your life because they're very, very fulfilling. So anything else? Good?
Okay.
All right. So, all right, wonderful. So Russ, thank you for your question today. We hope you, our viewers and listeners, have gained new insights on building social networks and influence independent. I'm going to start over on that. Thank you, Russ, for your question today. We hope you and our viewers and listeners gain new insights on building social networks without the influence of social media. To our listeners, if you like the content we shared today, please like this episode and also share and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Unlocking Leadership -AskTheCoaches.com. We look forward to reading your reviews. You can also find Unlocking Leadership Ask the Coaches on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. If you have a leadership question for us, please email us at info@unlockingleadership-askthecoaches.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for joining us today. Tune in next time to find the keys to unlocking your best leadership.